Okay, so started the recording. Fun. Advanced Python. Hopefully everybody in here is taking the INF360 course. Has anybody not taken INF360? Okay. So the goal of you coming into this class is hopefully you've taken INF360. You remember how to do for loops, while loops, all the stuff, know how to write functions, I hope. And you should know how to do object-oriented programming to some degree. All right. So as we're coming into this course, I will tell you this is the second time this course has been taught. So last fall was the first run of it. As I mentioned earlier, we had like 6 or 8 students. Now I'm beyond waitlisted. So I think I have 28 students in this fall. What does that mean? That means that obviously the schedule, the homework assignments, things like that are a little fluid, meaning if we decide we're going to go off on a tangent and we do something cool, then I'm going to change the schedule because we're doing something fun and cool. All right. Okay. That's honestly the reason it's changed from the way I taught it last fall. One, we got really into APIs and stuff like that. And we're like, okay, I'm going to stretch that out to 2 weeks. So normally I have an introduction week and it's really slow and easy. Not so much this week, meaning that we're going to have to jump right into it and get you guys all the resources so that next week we can start flying through stuff. All right. Just some housekeeping stuff. I'll throw it up at the top. Academic honesty. You guys know this all from INF360. Don't cheat, right? Don't go Stack Overflow, do all that. One thing I just mentioned in INF360 is don't use Copilot. Don't use, all the other fancy AI tools that are built into the IDEs and stuff like that, right? You don't do that in programming with Python. This is advanced Python. So if I start seeing advanced Python, well, yeah, you probably found that code from somewhere. That doesn't mean cheat and use ChatGPT and all the other 900 AI tools out there to get you through this. I want you to utilize those things as tools, and we'll actually show you how to utilize those as tools. Don't use it to write your code. Use it as a tool to help you get you through whatever hardship that you're going through. And I will actually show you how to use ChatGPT to do a lot of stuff in this class. As a matter of fact, when we get to Django, we are going to build a project strictly with ChatGPT and just telling it what we want. It gives us back code. We modify the code and show it how to build something out, because that is the real life of programmers today, right? I had a huge project I needed to do this summer. I didn't have time to get to it. I know I could code it from scratch. I've done it 900 times, but I just didn't have time. So what I do, I asked ChatGPT in a series of very precise questions of what I needed. It eventually built the entire web application for me. All I had to do was give it a skin over the front. Done. All right. That's entirely doable. Now, did it just say, I need to write a web app for this? And no, that did not work. But if I said, I need this piece, I need that piece, based on those other pieces, can you give me this piece? If you format those questions correctly, it can do some really cool stuff. And then you say, okay, that's great. It'll give me like the most basic of basic stuff with no CSS, etc. And then I go, okay, add some Bootstrap 5 gooiness, coolness in there, and it spits it all out and gives that to you. Then modify it to what you want it to be. All right. If you're using those tools in that fashion, totally okay with it for this class, because honestly, that's what the world's going to. So you should know how to do that. Don't go to ChatGPT and say, I want this. It's not going to work, and I'm going to know that you did it that way, because it's going to be obvious as it gets coded through there. All right. You guys remember from INF360 that we had a midterm project and a final project. We sat down and graded all those final projects one-on-one, same thing. And this class, there's no midterm project. It's just one ginormous final project. All right. We're still going to do it the same way, where we sit down and grade it and do all that. The difference in the final project in this class is it takes up like the last 6 weeks of class. So you have 6 weeks to work on that. And there's going to be milestones of that project as we're going through. All right. Anybody got any questions so far? All right. So for academic honesty, just make sure it's your own work. I mean, most of you guys are in the advanced class here because you had fun in 360 and you want to do something way more advanced, right? You're here for a reason, not because you have to take it at this point. All right. Just like in 360, if you guys have questions, email me. You cannot email me the .python files directly. You have to zip them and then email them to me. Then I can undo them and play with them and work with them. Okay. With this class, and we're going to go into that, we are going to use GitHub for everything. Right. So when you guys will submit homework assignments and things through GitHub, realistically, not necessarily in Blackboard. You'll be giving me a link in Blackboard to go to for your project. And I'll explain that in more detail as that works through. But the reason for that is because that's what you do in the real world, right? You store code in some kind of code source version, source managing. So what we wrote in the earlier, you guys working on your midterm projects, right? You probably had 30 copies of that thing as you were trying to figure out what worked, what didn't work. Now you're going to do code versioning of that through GitHub so that it's one file. You just have multiple versions of that. That way you can revert back and you can go back to extra code without having to comment it out and do all that stuff. We'll teach you all that kind of stuff. All right. For the live class, obviously everybody's here. I encourage you guys to come to class. Again, unlike 360, you guys signed up for this class to learn stuff. The more you guys show up in here and want to do cool stuff, that's what the whole class is about, right? I want to do cool stuff too. That's why I teach the class. So if you guys stop showing up to class, it's going to be real hard for us to do that. Show up to class, we're good. If you can't make it to class, just like in 360, you're sick, got a cold, something's else up, don't show up. Show up on the Zoom meeting, all right? Nobody else wants to be sick here, all right? I'm not necessarily taking attendance, but I'm telling you right now, don't not show up. Because everybody knows from 360, you stop showing up and then all of a sudden students start failing left and right. All right. I'm going to record these Zoom sessions just like what you saw in 360. So you guys can go back, review those videos, that kind of stuff. There will be some from last year, but because I'm tweaking and moving stuff, they probably won't be as useful because this course is still kind of being developed. Instead of homework assignments, you guys are going to have a series of mini projects throughout the semester. All right. So just like at the top, make sure you always have those comments at the top, what mini project it is, the initial comments, all of that's the exact same that you guys did before. Project naming is huge in this class. All right. Do not call it mini project 2 and then just submit it on GitHub, right? Make sure you call it mini project 2 JZ for Jason Zeller or something like that. Because if everybody calls it mini project 2, guess what? When I go to check it out, I got 30 different mini project 2s in there. In this case, I'm going to have very close to 30 of those. So make sure you put your name on it, just like you had to put your name on the Python file before in the actual file name. Make sure you name your projects with your name in there as well. Even though it's coming from your GitHub repository, doesn't matter when I check it out. All right. Has anybody not played with GitHub? It's okay if you haven't, because we're going to cover that. Okay, good. And how many have played with GitHub or at least check some code? Okay, good. All right. Let's see. What else do I got in the first week? Let's look at the syllabus real quick. So syllabus wise, it's going to tell you about all the stuff we're doing. As this schedule, I changed some of this, which I noticed is not showing up here for some reason. So I'll fix that. There should be an updated syllabus for this one. I'll get that fixed. So I'll push that out. But week 1, we're going to jump right into what was originally week 2. And that gives us an extra week to play with APIs. So there'll be 2 weeks of APIs as we go through there and play. All right. We're going to cover NumPy, SciPy. For those of you that haven't played with NumPy, SciPy, that is how you can work with data. So we're going to do a little bit of data analytics and being able to take a bunch of data from some source, crunch it with Python, and build that into some kind of project. All right. The other one we're going to do is pandas. So once you do it with NumPy, SciPy, you got to store a bunch of variables, arrays, etc. Pandas allows us to read it in data frames, and that way we can understand it a whole lot easier. So if you guys are strong data analytics kind of guys and you want to learn how to deal with data, mass quantities of data and crunch it in there, that is what we're going to be doing with pandas. Pandas is going to lead into our first dashboard visualization where we're going to use Streamlit. And so Streamlit is an entire framework wrapped around pandas that gives us a UI to that data. So instead of us just, doing a little bit of matplotlib and stuff like that we're going to do in pandas, this is going to give us full-on graphics and an entire web application. What's cool with Streamlit is it's very fast and easy to use. So like in 20 minutes, I can write an application that does all the visualizations that would have took me forever to do in matplotlib. All right. Some projects and things that we deal with that. So pandas and things like that, I'll show you how to use stock portfolios. So you guys will grab a bunch of stock information, API tickers, etc., that you guys are interested in. You can grab those as data frames, and then we build out your own portfolio and your own website that tracks everything you want it to track. And it can build visualizations, it can build predictions, that kind of stuff in there as well. So that's kind of what we'll center a little bit about Streamlit. You can obviously go in an entirely different direction other than stocks when we're playing through there. But those are the samples I'll give you. From there, we're going to start working in web frameworks. So there is a 601 class that is computer science. They haven't taught it yet. They're going to teach you more of the physical, almost C-level type UI coding that you can use with Python. So you probably used a couple of those. Some of you I know used Pygame. Some of you used like GTK or some of the other graphical tools that are available in Python. I'm going to teach you web applications doing that, mostly because I don't want you to have to code it for PCs and then Mac and then something over here. You got to code it all differently, right? It only runs on one platform. Web Frameworks works on anything with a web browser, right? So you guys are going to be building everything into web applications using web frameworks so that it can work on your phone, your cell phone, your watch, whatever the hell you got a web browser on. We're going to cover it up. All right. So the first one we're going to use is Flask. Flask is a real basic web application. It allows you to take data or some cool thing that you've been doing in Python and give a web page representation of it. That way you can code directly on the web page in Python. You can do everything you were doing in your Python script, only now it's a web application. All right. That one is not database backed. It's just backed by a flat file, or maybe it's backed by a bunch of dictionaries, that kind of stuff. Using that code, that's what we're going to use Flask for. Very fast and easy to get up. Then we're going to cover Django. Django is a heavy hitter. So Django is one that will probably work almost 3 weeks on Django. I'm not going to lie. And I'm just going to graze the surface of Django when we go through it, right? I'm going to give you everything you need to know to build applications, but there's a whole class that could be just based on Django itself. All right. Django is going to be Flask only database backed. So we're going to have SQL database back in. In this case, it'll be a Postgre database or a SQLite database, something like that. And we'll tie that in. One thing that we're going to do this semester, I used to require it for the grad students. Is anybody in here a grad student? Okay. You will still be required to do that. But some of you other ones is that you will live deploy this code on the internet. So it's not just I coded this and it runs on my laptop. You guys will take advantage of the free tools that you're going to get. So you'll deploy it on DigitalOcean and it's a full-blown website that you can go to. All right. Which is kind of where almost every class stops, right? They show you how to do Flask. They show you how to do Django, but they never show you how to publish it. Like, how do I actually go to jasonzeller.com and get my web application? Because there is a huge jump from doing the coding to figuring out how to do DevOps, which is server management, backend management, app management, that kind of stuff. So we're going to walk you through how to do all that stuff. All right. There will be 1 week of offensive Python, which is honestly just advanced Python, but for cybersecurity, right? So being able to poke out and do things with Python, do some scripting, everything based around cryptography, cybersecurity, that kind of stuff. And then from there, from week 12 all the way to week 16, which is about 5 weeks solid of 4 weeks of coding your final project, with the last week being that instructor review. All right. So in that first week, you're just going to get an outline. You got to give me a project proposal of what you're trying to do. That's mostly to get you guys on task. Every single one of these is to help you with project management and time, is really what it is. So this week, do an outline. This week, get your API. This week, pick what your framework is. This week, do your debugging and submission. All right. It's designed to keep you on task as you go through. Anybody got any questions on this stuff so far? All right. Quizzes and stuff, those will be 20%. Mini projects is 30. Midterm exam is 20. And your final project is worth 30% of the grade. For those of you that are grad students, those numbers fluctuate just a little bit, where you're going to be more heavy on the project as you go through. It's mostly because the application is going to change. So you'll do a final project as an undergrad student, but you grad students, you're going to have a full-blown deploy the whole thing in the whole 9 yards. All right. Okay, I think that's it for that part. One thing that we will cover when we get towards the final project, there's 2 different grading rubrics. One's for undergrad, one's for grad students. All right. Again, the real big difference between undergrad and grad is grad students are going to be making sure it's a live website. They have to do that. As an undergrad, you can do it, but it's not required you to do it. All right. But if you want to know how to do your own DevOps and start running your own web page companies and stuff using Flasko and Django, I will show you how to do that. Anybody got any questions so far?
Is the midterm exam the only exam in the whole class?
Yes.
Okay.
Other than quizzes.
Okay. I just
Yep.
get help from the syllabus.
Yep. It is. I'm not worried about the quizzes. The quizzes are, I'll be frank, they're a joke. Like, they're simple quizzes, right? It's really a little bit about the material, because honestly, this whole class is about those mini projects and your final code. Like, you would need to code. That's what you're in as a programming class, right? So I don't care if you can take a multiple choice, multiple answer quiz. I care whether or not you can actually code. That's ultimately what matters. All right. All these sessions will be recorded. I'll try to post them as quick as I can in the evenings. I have back-to-back classes, this one being the last one. This class ends at like 2:45, something like that. I have to leave right at 2:45 most days. There'll be some days I don't, but other days I have to leave right at that time. All right. I gotta go pick up my kid from school. So on the days I don't go pick him up, I'll be around. I can answer questions, do that kind of stuff. And let's see, we're Tuesday, Thursday, that kind of thing. So we should be around. All right. So let me stop this video for that's the welcome.